She'll be talking about Collaborate to Innovate, about Lab of the Future and Women in STEM. To introduce Anca, she has more than 10 years of international management experience creating and leading cross-functional teams working with large corporates and SMEs. She has led the introduction of new products and services across 140 markets. In her current role as a consultant at the Pistoia Alliance, she is a strategic team lead for improving the efficiency and effectiveness of R&D. Her role includes leading communities of interest in life science and healthcare R&D for more than 150 member companies, including the Pistoia Alliance Lab of the Future community. She also leads the Pistoia Alliance's new Women in STEM Leadership Pilot Program and is responsible for developing other non-competitive cross-industry initiatives where members of the Pistoia Alliance can collaborate to solve common challenges together. We're pleased to have you with us, Ms. Anca. Are you here? I can't.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much also for the invitation. Could you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
So again, thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Anca, and before I start this presentation, I would really want to tell you some things about me, about my educational background and career background. I studied biotechnical engineering. I have a master's degree in the medical engineering from the Polytechnica University of Bucharest and an MBA degree from the EU Executive Academy in Vienna. I must confess that although the university helped me a lot in forming my mindset and in developing the logical approach when it comes to solving different problems, I never worked in the area I thought that I'm preparing for as an engineer. What I did after graduation, I actively searched to join a multinational company from the pharma industry because I had the desire of having a job that for me was meaningful in terms of helping the people in need, but in the same time I had the dream of becoming the type of the business person that travels from places to places and meets different people and cultures. So I wanted this international exposure, and I really wanted to meet and work with people from different cultures. So I climbed in my career from a project management and marketing, starting with Romania. Then I moved to responsibilities on Central Eastern Europe, and then I went at the European level responsibility in less than 7 years within the same company. Then I moved to a small medium enterprise for another number of years, where I got global responsibilities and where I built the project management department. And then I became an independent consultant. I joined the Pistoia Alliance as a strategic film lead, as you presented earlier. And in my current role, I see myself as a connector. I connect people, I connect their ideas for more than 200 member companies of the Pistoia Alliance, all across the R&D ecosystem. I facilitate collaborations between these companies in order to address and to solve common challenges in a non-competitive way. In this session, I'm going to present 2 of the currently running initiatives. One is called the Lab of the Future, which is a community of interest. And the other one is the Women in STEM, which is a program that we are currently piloting. Do you see my next slide?
Yes, we can see
that you see the next slide. Okay, thank you very much. So before going into the presentation, I'd like to tell you a few words about the Pistoia Alliance. For those of you that maybe didn't have the chance to work with this organization, it's a not-for-profit organization. It gathers under its umbrella more than 200 member companies, including the 16 out of the 20 pharma companies, top 20 pharma companies. And the mission is to lower the barriers to innovation in life science and in healthcare R&D through pre-competitive collaboration. This means that we bring at the same table different companies that might be competitors in the business environment, but we facilitate a collaboration between them for a common purpose. The COVID-19 changed our lives in many, many ways, including in the way we work. More companies became more permissive to remote working, and the cross-industry collaborations also increased. We saw a high acceleration of digital transformations across the healthcare industry, and the benefits of these industry-wise collaborations are very well known, and more and more organizations we see that are leveraging a legal framework that not-for-profit organizations can facilitate in order to collaborate with different organizations, research-based organizations, maybe digital technology players, also patient groups, for example. Both of the examples that I'm going to show you are global initiatives, which means that we involve people around the world to support each other, to share and to learn and to address certain challenges, but also to look for solutions together in the benefit of the whole industry. And when you will go on the Pistoia Alliance website, you can see a list of projects and a list of communities of interest. And I highlighted just some of them on the right side of the screen. Among all these initiatives, we also have the Lab of the Future community, which has a mission of driving a pre-competitive approach to building the next generation of laboratory environment. And we are looking from a perspective of data standards, processes, instruments, and knowledge sharing. And the members of this community are presenting use cases, are sharing the challenges and best practices, but they are also exploring different ideas and initiate projects that can help support the lab transformation in the digitalization pathways. Now, one of my roles here is to furthermore develop this community and the engagement between the participants. So we are looking at short, medium, long-term perspectives, and we organize dedicated workshops, webinars, projects, and community discussions, looking at the improvements that can be done in supporting these lab transformations, no matter how far an organization is in this process, in the digital journey. So we gathered a good mix of industry experts from the pharma, CROs, tech suppliers, academia also, and other types of organizations with wide diversity of roles that are working in the ecosystem of R&D labs. On the right side, you see a highlight from the second half of the year when we organized different webinars. Almost half of the participants came from pharma companies, but we also had other organizations joining, and also almost half of the participants are having leadership roles, which means that they are decision makers and they can have an influence also within the organization, but also for the industry-wise project that we want to develop, for example. Now, how will the lab of the future look like, and what does it really mean? There are many general predictions. People are talking about having a smart lab or an automated and fully remote AI-powered lab, cloud labs working hand in hand with scientists, scientists working completely remotely without being confined within the four walls of a lab and so on. But there are different types of labs, and there isn't one path that can fit all. And it's very interesting to see how these laboratories are evolving. What is their digitalization speed, their particular vision on how their future will look like. And even though there are some differences, we can all agree that there are a lot of common mechanisms, interfaces, terminology, technology, and so on. And they do have some similar milestones and objectives that they want to achieve in this transformational journey. Let me show you. One of the common visions for all type of labs is that they will make use of the automation and digitalization. So the digital infrastructure needs to take into account the large volume and variety of data that is being produced. Some later on challenges can be avoided if the organizations have data centricity in mind when implementing the new systems and workflows and automations. And one of the general challenges that all labs are facing is how to capture this large amount of data that is being produced, including the contextual data, in a fair format, which means to be findable, to be accessible, to be interoperable and reusable. And how to redesign the current paper-based workflow in case the organization is still recording the experiments, let's say on paper and not on some electronic system, in order to fit the purpose, right? How to extract the data from obsolete device. As an example of industry initiative to enable a fair, aligned and comprehensive semantic capture and translation of data is the SEED project that you can see on the right side of the screen. SEED comes from semantic enrichment of ELN data, and ELN is the electronic lab notebook. This project developed a new standard assay ontology in the phase 1, and now aims at filling important ontology gaps of interest for ELNs that are not currently covered in the well-formed public ontologies. Another challenge related with the digitalization is how to standardize the practices across the industry in a way that the data can be properly captured. And to be able to automate something, you need to describe the process. And there is a huge gap in the data standards in the automation area. And in Q3, in Q3 last year, we asked the community to highlight some of their biggest barriers in the digitalization process. And we identified as top 2 barriers the fact that the equipment is unable to communicate with one another, and that there are no common data formats. So the participants proposed as next step to create some sessions on the different industry standards and their practical applications. And this is what we did. We created a series of webinars where we discussed about the adoption of open standards and why multiple standards are necessary condition for digitalization. We then saw the need of mapping all the process communication and data standards that are being used by the Lab of the Future community in an easy to understand format. So now what you see on the right side, the standards mapping across the R&D value chain, this is a current initiative, and we are gathering ideas on how this mapping should look like. It can either be an infographic type or it can be a decisional tree that will help the user to figure out which standard is relevant for their work and for their lab environment. Now, some standards exist and we can do the mapping of all of them, but others need to be created where there are gaps. And this can be done in 2 ways. One way is from bottom up. For example, coming from the research need of the organization to have some communication or process or data standards to fit the purpose, or it can be developed from top down, which means from the compliance, from the regulatory side. And as an example of an industry-wise initiative developed by the Pistoia Alliance and its members, we have the Helm notation, which is the hierarchical editing language for macromolecules, which is a system of standardized naming for complex biomolecules. It's widely adopted. It's used for representing therapeutic large molecule in the bioregistration systems. And Helm is now an FDA recognized submission format, which also received an award of best practice from the bio-IT world. Here is another example of initiative that can help standardize the data across the industry. This is called the IDMP Ontology project. The IDMP comes from identification of medicinal products, and the terminology is being used in different domains, as you can see on the columns that are marked in blue, in the development, in the production, in regulation, authorization, and so on. The project is aiming at creating the ontology that will line top-down the IDMP ISO standards to the in-house standards of the organizations to reduce the current implementation inconsistencies at the organization level, and in this way it can save time and costs. On the right side, you can see another example of a regulatory initiative, which is called In Vitro Pharmacology Project, where the FDA invited the Pistoia Alliance to help develop the data standards for in vitro pharmacology bioassay. The project just started, and the aim is to accelerate the submission process by defining the ontologies that will enable better data reuse, interpretation, and understanding. And all these examples and top-down standards that are being developed will be seen at the laboratory level in a period of time. But from a process perspective, these top-down standards are very efficient because they created a need of everybody to accept the same ontologies and data standards. Now, the Pistoia Alliance has also other communities of interest that are connected to the Lab of the Future, and we create also collaborations and partnership between these communities. On the left side, you can see the data governance community. This is managed by my colleague, John Weiss. In the middle, you see the AI/ML community of interest. This is managed by my colleague, Vladimir Makarov. And on the right side, you see another example of community, which is the UX community, managed by my colleague, Paula de Matos. So if we take one by one with the data governance community, we created a series of standards webinars. Data governance is essential to enable digital transformation and to advance innovation. And this growing community already has more than 30 companies that bring together opinion leaders to identify best practices, common obstacles, and some potential solutions that we can all work together. The AI community of interest is aiming at discovering and promoting the best ways to use these new promising technologies, to apply them to solve the current challenges, and to educate the companies through presentations and discussions. And when implementing tools and software, AI, ML, an important aspect is to consider the change management, and particularly the user adoption. So the dedicated user experience community, which is formed by practitioners from the pharmaceutical, healthcare, and software industries, is delivering frameworks and guides and toolkits to enable the businesses to adopt UX principles and methods. And their most recent initiative is to create concepts and ideas that will help the Lab of the Future community. Last few years, we saw rapid growth in terms of the number of new pre-competitive collaborations between the pharma companies and AI providers and software providers, and in general, the organizations from the R&D ecosystem. And in 2022, digital transformation continues to accelerate, and the pharmaceutical industry is seeing the benefits of non-competitive collaborations. And at the beginning, when the companies are learning how to assess their organization and the potential for digital transformations, we do encourage them to join different non-competitive platforms and groups to learn from the experience of the other companies. And same for the organizations that are the digital journey, because it's useful to contribute into and to help each other by sharing the use cases and best practices and lessons learned. And in this way, the organizations together can share both the risks and the benefits of the deliverables. Now, if you are not part of an organization yet, if you are a student or an early graduate, I do encourage you to join the communities of interest. Most of the discussions are open. You can join without any registration cost, and you can be more in contact with what is happening in the industry. I would say a recommendation to stay informed, to subscribe to different newsletters about your area of interest, to join different webinars and discussions. And very important to be proactive. So for example, if you see a challenge, discuss it with others, maybe look for some solutions. And if you see a challenge and a solution, you can join different working groups. You can reach out to different not-for-profit organizations that have the means and the contacts to validate the concept and to bring the right stakeholders at the table. I want to show you how at the Pistoia Alliance we create new projects. We are constantly developing new projects, and the process starts with the ideation phase, where the pre-competitive project idea is being raised. The idea can come from anybody. Then the idea is being validated with the community in terms of the benefits and the interest. And once there is a buy-in for that particular idea, it then starts to take a shape into a project that has a clear problem statement and the industry benefit. The outcome can be a member-funded project or a program. It can be a new formed community of experts. And this is the exact same path that we went on for creating the Women in STEM pilot program that I'm about to present you. So firstly, why is the Women in STEM topic important for so many organizations? You might not see a gender imbalance at the university or in your early career levels, but the gender imbalance in the top executive roles is a well-documented case, unfortunately. So studies showed that women are more likely to leave the STEM career pipeline than men, leading to a wider gap at the senior level. So women account for only 3% of the CEOs in this field. And this is why the Pistoia Alliance has chosen to focus this pilot scheme on the leadership roles, because we believe that we believe in the top-down changes and in creating more role models for the future generations. And this was the process. We started in April last year at the Pistoia Alliance conference, where we had the Women in STEM panel with some very interesting discussions that continued even after the end of the conference. And by the way, some of the most interesting discussions happened before and after the presentations. So if you're a student or an early graduate at the conference, don't limit to the presentations, to listening to the presentations. Try to network and join the conversations that happen during the breaks or in the organized networking events and the poster sessions and so on. You can get a lot of valuable information from there and connect with the right people. So going back to how we started this program, in April last year, we received the feedback from the participants that really made us think of the different programs that we can initiate to help the women who want to start or grow into their STEM career. So in Q3, we gathered more interested parties and we asked the participants, what do they think are the biggest barriers for women in STEM? And the lack of childcare, maternity policies, depending on also the locations, but also the absence of female role models were mentioned as the barriers. But by far the greatest seemed to be the workplace culture. And we didn't go into more depth at that time, but we knew that the workplace culture is highly influenced by the leadership and the strategic organizational directions and the management. So what was also interesting in Q3 was the feedback that came from one of the only two men who joined the call. He experienced for the first time the feeling of being in the minority. And this feedback confirmed that in the Women in STEM program, all genders need to be involved. We agreed that any diversity effort needs to incorporate the intersectionality, which is the acknowledgement that everyone has their own unique experience when it comes to discrimination, and that gender can make people feel marginalized. And that is why we wanted to make sure that everybody is well represented and that men are included in all aspects of the program. In Q4, we started different ideas on how the program should look like. And the most appealing idea to our members was the one to create a cross-company training and networking program, which is what we are piloting now with top managers from the pharma companies. The current pilot program brings together 40 participants from 12 countries, from 3 continents for a period of 6 months. We started in January, we will finish in June this year. We currently have 17 companies involved in this pilot stage, and each group of 10 participants includes 2 men as minority. The group meetings are held weekly. We have accredited trainer and coach, and we also have monthly networking sessions. Each group includes diversity in terms of the gender, race, location, role function. Almost half of the participants are from the US. The other half is mostly from Europe and China. And the Pistoia Alliance brought together leaders with different areas of expertise because we wanted to see different perspectives. And these are limited but not included, are including but not limited to the drugs research, development, data science, industry regulation, drug safety, and so on. And just to tell you that this Women in STEM pilot program, it's a first step in a wider diversity and inclusion in STEM leadership initiative. And we are aiming to run a series of future programs as of September this year, using the feedback and the learnings from this pilot program. We would like to form a community of leaders who share the same values and that want to contribute to the change in the overall industry, either by directly changing or by promoting equality in their organizations. If you want to find out more about the Pistoia Alliance and how you can get engaged, please do reach out to us on the website. And again, for students and early graduates, join the industry discussions, stay informed, ask questions, and be proactive. Reach out to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anca, for such a wonderful presentation. I have a question. How do competing big pharma companies collaborate in the Pistoia Alliance projects?
Well, we facilitate a non-competitive environment. So, for example, we bring together projects or ideas or solutions that if the companies are working together, there's a benefit for the whole industry. There is no competitive advantage, right? So that's why we can bring different companies that even if, for example, in the day-to-day business environment, they are in competition, we bring them together with projects and initiatives that all of them can benefit. Because imagine that if, for example, a company has a big challenge, one thing is to try to solve the challenge by its own, which means investing resources, and resources can be hiring a lot of people to try to solve that issue, spending the money, the time, and so on. Or they can share the risk, right, and the resources with other companies that are facing similar challenges and try to solve them together.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you for answering the question. And the next question is, what is the challenge that Big Pharma is trying to solve with bioinformatics?
Well, I think it's also related with the data standards, and actually when it comes to challenges from the industry, we always ask the participants, and we want to understand what is the challenge and what we can do for that challenge, right?
Thank you. And do we have any more questions? Okay, we have one more question. What are some of the challenges faced in the current role as a strategic team lead, and how do you handle those challenges?
Well, the challenges that I see are mostly related with ensuring that we have all the right stakeholders at the table. So, for example, if somebody comes to me with an idea or a challenge and says, look, I need more people that would be willing to work together on solving this issue, right? For me, one of the challenges is, okay, I do have a lot of contacts. Who is the best person to come and work on this particular project? Or validating that a challenge that one company is facing, it's actually a challenge that more companies are facing. Because many times it happens that a company comes with a challenge that is not very sure if other companies are facing similar one. So then this comes the validation process that I'm doing, going and talking with different companies, seeing if that challenge is similar, and if we have an idea on a solution that we can work together to solve it.
Okay, got it. And our last question, Maham is asking, how can we join Women in STEM program?
So currently the Women in STEM is for the people that are in the top executive roles in the pharma, because the way we started this program, we saw that at the entry level, so it depends on where you are, right? If you are at the entry level in a career, there are similar programs for entry level, right? What we saw the need of doing the same in the top executive, to make sure that the people that join at the entry level can have the same chances to advance in the career, right? So our program is targeted at leadership roles. And you can join by going on the website of the Pistoia Alliance, and you will see there under the projects, the program, and you can register either to join, either to be informed or with the newsletter information.
Okay, perfect. I hope, Maham, you have your answer and you can join. Yeah, thank you so much.